Hi, y'all. I'm back. I just wanted to finish what I started the other day. So we were talking about Sharp as a Serpent's Tooth, Eva and Other Stories, a collection of Southern stories that'll have you cheering for snakes and cussing in church. Well, we talked about cheering and snakes reference. So now I want to talk to you about the cussing in church part. And I apologize for the way I look. I'm trying to get everything fixed outside before this hurricane comes through. 2020, it's been crazy, but hurricane ain't nothing compared to everything else. But I wanted to get this done in case I do lose power because it's going to drive me nuts. I've been thinking about it ever since we talked the other day. So the cussing in church reference is there's a story, the last story in the collection. It's called Cussing Snakes and Candy Cigarettes. The narrator of the story is a young girl. She's 10 years old. Her name is Charlotte. Some things happen, and she ends up spending the summer with her Aunt Corey. Her Aunt Corey, she never knew a thing about her, even though she was her mother's identical twin sister. All Charlotte knew about her Aunt Corey was just from gossip and rumors that she'd heard. Little bits of information she'd write in her journal, and she was scared of her aunt, but also intrigued about this woman. And as luck would have it, she gets to know her, and she realizes that just because somebody's different than you doesn't mean that they're bad. Actually, it could be great. So here's a little part that sets up the story. Charlotte was raised very strict, Church of Christ. She loves going to church. She just loves it. This is what she knows. She's comfortable with it. And Corey, who is not at all a religious person, but she is very spiritual. She walks her niece to church every Sunday and Wednesday, but she has no desire to go inside at all. But she does respect her niece, and of course, she supports her, but she has no interest in going inside. The revival comes through town, and Charlotte sees some posters for the revival, and when she asks her Aunt Charlotte to go, Aunt Corey, when her Aunt Corey finds out that they're going to be snake handlers there, she's all for it. Well, Charlotte's just so excited that her aunt's going to go with her to church event that she's just so happy about it. But that tent revival is nothing like Charlotte's ever seen. She keeps thinking of it more as a circus, and it is expecting to hear a lion's roar. But she gets a surprise. But this is going to set the story up a little bit, and then I'll take you to the cussing snakes part. So Charlotte, I went to church on Sunday because Mama would have wanted me to, and honestly, I liked it. It was something constant and steady in my life, which I needed after so many surprises, even though I left there with more questions than answers after the death of my parents. The only answers I seemed to get from my Sunday school teachers were that I asked too many questions for someone my age, and Aunt Corey wasn't much help either. She had a sticker on her guitar case that read, "Eve was fraying," so as you can imagine, the list of questions was never ending. My life was turned upside down that summer, but Aunt Corey came to my rescue. She opened my eyes and taught me many valuable lessons, like how to play and be a kid. She taught me not to judge other people and not take life so seriously. She taught me that rumors and gossip are more than words. They're actual physical things that can ruin someone's life. Or maybe I learned that one on my own when I started writing news stories in my journal. We all have a story I realized after the night of the tent revival, Aunt Corey's story was better than anything I could make up, and probably more exciting than any rumor I'd heard. The crazy sane man holding the snakes noticed Corey, and they stared at each other without speaking. He nodded, and Corey took a couple of steps closer. The man danced a little jig, and I knew he felt the same thing I felt coming from her. It sparked something in him. He smiled at her, and Corey stepped even closer. Then something unbelievable happened. The man held the snake out to her, and I swear she took it. She just reached right out and took it. Holding the snake's head between her thumb and middle finger in a firm grip, she raised it up to her face. She brought it up to an inch from her freckled nose and looked it square in the eye, and I was sure it had hypnotized her. I could see her face, and I was hit with a different scent. I could smell fear coming off of her in waves. It smelled strange, like vinegar and lemon and something else, but it was her fear, I'm sure of it, coming up and over all the other smells around me. She stared that snake down, and the scent faded somewhat. Then she smiled a confident smile and said, "Fuck you." I almost died from the thrill of it. We were in church, for crying out loud. My aunt had just dropped the worst curse word ever, right there in front of God and everybody. Even if it was a tent and there was a fat lady, minus a rouge and floppy hat, playing the piano, it was still a religious event. Thank goodness the lady at the keyboard banged away on the keys, because the crazy man with the snakes didn't hear my aunt with all the racket going on around us. Snakes or no snakes, I don't think he would have approved. I watched my aunt stare down that snake until the smile faded from her face, making her look like a lost child. Corey didn't look like Corey when she wasn't smiling. She handed the snake back to the handler just as easy as you'd pass a salt shaker to a dinner guest, and stepped back without one single bite, thank God. When he took it from her, I realized her hands were shaking something terrible. Someone called out in a frantic voice, "That was God talking to you, honey. Did you hear? Did you listen?" Corey turned to where the voice came from and found a lady with her hair coming out of her bun, holding a Bible up over her head. Oh, hell, that wasn't God talking to me. No, ma'am, nowhere close to God. And no, this time I didn't listen. Then she threw her head back and laughed, and I exhaled as the color came back to her cheeks. "You ready to get out of here?" Corey asked when she reached me. I nodded, and she took my sweaty, shaking hand in her own sweaty, shaking hand. We walked past all those odd people and their strange smells and out into the fresh air. "Corey, were you really talking to that snake?" "Him? Oh, yeah. He was an ex-husband of mine. He was a snake back then, too. I always wanted to tell him that." She let go of my hand, stretched both arms up over her head, and yawned. "I never got the chance." She looked up at the moon like nothing had happened. Seeing her like that, arms stretched, yawning, relaxed and at ease, you'd never guess that just minutes ago she'd cussed a snake in the middle of a sermon. A snake that was an ex-husband, no less. She put her arm around my shoulders and gave me a squeeze. "How'd you know he's going to be here?" Corey looked confused, then raised her eyebrows and shrugged with a grin. "I didn't." So, there you go. I hope I didn't offend anybody. This story was called With a New Tongue Spoken, and it won an award, the Vol State's #1 award for fiction. And when it won, Elkin Brown, who actually submitted the story, because I didn't have the courage to. I just didn't think it was worth it. It's a chapter from my novel in progress, With a New Tongue Spoken. Elkin was so excited that it won. He was excited for me. It was my story, but he also he was just tickled to death that it won first place with the F word in it, because they were very particular about offensive language. And he said, "Mandy, it shows it's good writing. If they pick that story for the winner with that word in it, that's good writing." And it's true. Now, if you read this, and if want to finish the novel and you get to know Corey, if anybody should get a pass on saying a cuss word or two, even if it is the F word, it's Corey. She deserves it. Um, so that's it. I hope you liked it, and I hope that explains a little bit. Cussing Snakes and Candy Cigarettes, the last story in the collection. It'll be out September 28th. If you'd like to pre-order your copy, you can go to my website, mandyhaynes.com, and pre-order there and get on the list for some extra goodies. You can pre-order it anywhere else if you want to, but I won't know about you, so I won't be able to put you on the list for the other stuff. So if you're interested, there's that. And I do want to say again, for everybody that's reading Walking the Wrong Way Home, thank you, thank you, thank you. The reviews have been great. I love getting all the messages from people and just hearing stories about y'all reading it and which stories you like the most. So keep doing that. It's great. Keep talking about it. Share it. Pass it around. It means so much to me. And that's it. I'll be back on here a little bit later and I'll tell you some more about some more characters in second collection. I might just talk some about some of the stories on Walking the Wrong Way Home. Thanks for listening. Y'all be safe out there. If you're down here in Florida, just hunker down. We're going to be all right. Just, like I said, this hurricane ain't nothing. But I better get out there and get my pitchfork out of my front flower bed before it hits. Y'all stay safe.